I mean, it was not something that I really planned to do. And it came about in a very organic way. I mean, none of this was really planned, or there was no real goal to. It was a conceptual project during lockdown that I decided to experiment with, and then it grew into something much bigger. So the name change was actually recommended by the label, and they were like, music is radically different from my past catalog, so it made sense for that new identity to it. Probably called for a fresh start as well. So that's how the whole process started. The name itself, took me a while to figure out, just hunting through bases. I knew I wanted it to be Sanskrit because I think Sanskrit, is the ideal bridge between the ancient Indian world and the modern sort of global world, right? At this point,
Absolutely.
One of those languages that is kind of the foundation for modern language, but is also connected to Indian history and culture. So I knew it had to be a Sanskrit word. That was something I decided on, and I also kind of wanted it to be A, so it carried forward from my name.
Yeah.
And I was lucky to stumble upon it. It essentially translates to spontaneous or effortless in Sanskrit. That's kind of what we're looking for, and it kind of seemed like this transition felt that way. So
that's beautiful.
Yeah. The theme behind the EP is really was really trying to use Indian classical vocals primarily, not completely Indian classical, but vocals centered around the Indian classical space, and put that on modern house and techno production. That was the vision, at least, before the EP began. I think it's quite rare that you actually as a producer get to fully realize your vision. Most often projects start with a certain vision and end up somewhere else, which is not necessarily not a bad thing, because you are during the process and journey of discovery of while you're making something, you can make some very happy mistakes and end up in a place that you didn't expect to be at. But I'm actually glad that with this one the vision was kind of executed the way it was meant to be. There wasn't too much that deviated from what the idea was, and also something that during the songwriting process that I wanted to keep in mind, not just with the Gaya EP, but with the next EP also, which is due in January, and with Anyasa in general. I kind of wanted to use a lot of songwriting from the progressive trance and the classic trance era. So you'll hear a lot of pads, you'll hear a lot of drawn out euphoric breakdowns. Something that I felt was to a certain extent missing in modern house and techno. I think some of the emotion and euphoria was sort of missing. So I made sure that I have those elements retained as well. And I think the symphony of the Indian classical vocal with that sort of nostalgic trancey feel is kind of really where the magic happens for Gaya.
Absolutely, man. I think it's really a winning, I don't want to call it a formula, but I think it's a really winning sound that you've found. And
Thank you.
The way it's executed and the whole intent is very genuine, original, as you said, organic.
Yeah.
And it's really beautiful. And why do you call it Gaya? What was the process?
Gaya is the name for Mother Earth, sort of the force of that drives feminine energy around the world. And it was a tribute to all the 4 female singer-songwriters on the EP who were really the driving force behind it.
Awesome, man. Awesome. And it's really amazing to see someone channel that energy so successfully and effortlessly. So everything, all the dots connect. I feel, and it definitely shines through in the music, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty like similar throughout all the artists, and this is generally how I operate with singer-songwriters in general. Is my workflow is basically to I have these like spurts of writing sessions, like creative windows in my like life, where in a 2 week or 3 week window, I'll put together like 10 to 12 ideas sometimes. And these are just like chord structures. They're very basic chord structures with a very basic sort of drop or bass line, kind of thing, which is very unfleshed and very minimal. And I like to make a folder of this and then send it over to people I'm collaborating with, saying, choose the one that you like, that you resonate with, and then just record freestyle vocals, record ad-libs, record harmonies, just record whatever you feel like over it. Don't restrict yourself. I don't make an arrangement and send to them saying that, I need you to like find a vocal for this space, because that automatically constricts them while they're writing or while they're composing or thinking. So I like to give them a complete free hand in what they want to do. And from there on, I sort of comp the vocal, start placing it, playing around with it, go back to them with feedback, saying this is working, this is not working. Start looking at some lyrical ideas, themes, discuss what themes could work lyrically, and then kind of guide them through the process of sort of writing the song. That's my general workflow, and it's pretty much been the case throughout all the songs in the EP. I think I lost your audio.
Oh, sorry. Like when you said, I think the simplicity factor, what you said, it's really worked, in the favor of the music, because I think it really lets the vocals shine as well as the effortlessness factor.
Absolutely. I mean, I see a lot of people, working with vocalists and then just crowding up the track with so many instruments. But I'm like, if you're going to do that, then don't get a vocalist. You have a hook already,
True.
I think it's important that if you are going to feature someone on the track, whether it's a instrument player or a vocalist or a singer, you need to give them space to breathe in the track and then build your production around it. So I always build my production around vocal. I'll never build a production and then ask the vocalist to fit into that, because then that's just not doing them justice. And it's not an equal collaboration also. Like the same way if somebody comes to me with a track and says that, here's a track that's 80% done, can you finish it and we'll collaborate? I'm like, that's not a collaboration. Like, we have to start it from scratch on day one.
Yeah. That's more of an assignment, I guess.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, what are the particular reasons that you picked these particular singers? Like,
well, Ishita I found because, I got in touch with her because I did a remix for these friends of mine, Anhad and Dana, 2020, early 2020, I think, just before lockdown, and she was featured on the track that I was remixing, so I discovered her there, and I was like, okay, she's got an incredible voice and she's really something special. So she was the first one I got in touch with. Bavari Basanti and Amira Gill, I just pretty much found on Instagram and Spotify, while looking for Indian, like exciting Indian talent.
Awesome.
And Avneet I knew for many years. She had done a track with a friend of mine, Nuclear, about 7-8 years ago, called Longavacha. I know Avneet since then, and she lives in Amsterdam, and I've met her a few times there and hung out, so she's a friend. I've been wanting to work with her forever, but just never found the right opportunity or the project. And so when this came together, I was like, this is perfect. This is like absolutely down your alley. Here, take these demos and tell me what you think. Yeah.
Awesome, man. Awesome. In fact, I think Bavari Basanti, I briefly met her during her stint at Swarnabhumi, the music school.
Yeah.
So I remember her from there. She's a great vocalist.
Yeah, she's incredible. I mean, she's so short and like tiny, like her sound stage. Like, I don't know from where it comes. Like, I always ask her, like, how do you use that vocal range?
It comes from Gaya, I suppose.
I think so.
Yeah. So
she's amazing, though.
Yeah. So can you speak a bit about like the significance behind like each of the tracks and the or like from the names themselves, why they are called like Nadia and so on?
Well, to be very fair, so again, like my part of my creative process is because I mainly like to focus on in the songwriting process, I like to focus on melodies and sort of picking thematic ideas. I don't try to get into writing lyrics for the songs because that's not my forte. I'm just a bad like writer. So that's again something I like songwriters to do, because for me, the way they're writing lyrics is they're always writing lyrics to a chord structure or like an instrumental that I've given them. And for me, what they are writing is what that instrumental evokes within them, right? So I tend to keep that part of the process pure just to them, and I'm like, if it's a theme which is really not working with the song or with my vision for the project, then I'll be like, this is not working. But in general, I like the lyrics to come from there, and then I like to just pick the names from the lyrics. So it's not something that I've been involved with like naming the tracks, because I just like to find, in fact I just go back to them and be like, hey, what do you think we should call this track? It's something I like to keep like simple and straightforward and not very complicated.
Sure, yeah. And yeah, I guess that adheres to the effortless part of the whole process, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's also just easier for like everyone involved when the track names are easy and short.
Definitely.
Social media to like marketing and everything. Yeah.
Awesome.
I mean, I have zero formal training in music. Absolutely, I have no formal training in music or production. But I got into music at a very young age because my uncle and dad are both guitar players. They play like jazz guitars and stuff like that. So I grew up with a lot of music around the house. I started collecting music when I was really young. Started collecting cassette tapes when I was about 8 or 9. Then discovered the internet and started downloading CDs, downloading music on like Audio Galaxy and LimeWire, burning CDs, and like by the time I was 16, I think I already had like a CD collection of like a bunch of CDs. So that is kind of where I came from. I come from like a DJ background first. I started DJing when I was 15 or 16, and I only started producing music when I was 18 or 19. So I came from a DJ background first rather than a production background, which it kind of reflects also in my style of music, because I always try to make music that's dance floor focused. And for me, unless it makes someone dance, like that song is not, it's not really like my style. Obviously, when you're doing an album and stuff, you have the ability to put out more ambient and relaxed material. But for me, in EPs at least, I like the stuff to be dancey. So that's really where my early roots come from. Apart from that, I've been producing music now for 12 years. So it's been a slow and steady process, like a self-taught, very, I keep telling people that, I mean, no matter how talented you are, how much training you have in music, it's still going to take you 4 or 5 years before you can release a song that's good enough to be played around, So it's like music production is a very sort of slow and it is, I would say, rewarding, but often you can like lose hope in the middle. And I think the people who persevere through those like stages are the ones that get to be really successful producers.
That's great. That's very valuable words, man. So what are your earliest memories of listening to music?
Earliest memories of listening to music would be like classic rock. I grew up listening to classic rock. Scorpions, Dire Straits, a lot of that. Again, like listening to cassette tapes with my dad and uncle, listening to CDs with them. I mean, obviously watching my dad play the guitar all through my childhood growing as a kid, right? So that was really my introduction to music.
Nice, man. And like, what artists influenced you? You would say, like, say in the Indian side, and of course you mentioned a few in rock.
Yeah.
Apart from those,
so my introduction to electronic music was A State of Trance, Armin van Buuren's podcast.
Of course.
That was where I kind of really discovered electronic music. And then from 2005 to like 2007 or 8, I only listened to progressive trance. So Trance Around the World is probably on. Gabriel and Dustin. Marcus Schulz had a podcast called Global Departure. So I was in college and like I had like a 1 hour commute to college, and basically I would listen to an episode of these shows, throughout every commute. And I did that for like 3 years. And that's when I kind of filtered down to house and discovered house. And then like the whole defected sound out of Ibiza and London and like classic house is what was my next jam. And that kind of then led to forming my roots as a DJ, playing progressive classic house towards then big room house in the early 2010s. So that was kind of my musical journey early on in electronic music. I mean, it has to definitely be like the groove or the kick drum. Right?
That someone is me, by the way, who's not aware of house music too much.
Oh, okay.
I did listen to ASOT a lot, but
Yeah, I mean, okay. So the thing with electronic music is, there's two sides to it, really, right? I mean, on one hand, electronic music is really designed to be listened to on dance floors because it is dance music. So very often I see, I mean, for a lot of people, their entry point to dance music now is on Spotify or YouTube, which is not the ideal entry point because I mean, back, I would say even 10 years ago, pre-streaming or pre-YouTube, the only entry point into dance music was at like clubs, at nightclubs or like festivals, and that's really the way to get into dance music, because like, I mean, at the end of the day, you can listen to like whatever artist you like on the streaming platform, or you can listen to the best sets from the biggest festivals in the world on YouTube, but just the that thump of the kick drum on the big sound system cannot be replicated anywhere. It doesn't matter. And that's, I think, something people tend to lose a lot nowadays. I see a lot of people listen to sets online, and they're like, oh, but I mean, this is a really average set, it didn't sound that great, we're not feeling it. I mean, you're listening to it on like iPod earphones on watching it on your iPhone,
Yeah, hopefully not on the phone. At least
Yeah.
iPod.
I mean, it doesn't matter, even if it's on an iPad or a TV, right? What the real magic of electronic dance music happens in these big rooms with these pounding sound systems, right? Just the ability to feel kick and bass, and feel it in the way that it was intended to be felt. It crosses the line between hearing and feeling. And when you listen to the difference between listening to a good DJ and a great DJ is that a good DJ will probably play songs that and evoke reactions in a room and a certain response from people that will make them feel like, oh, this is a great song that we know, and they'll react a certain way. A great DJ will play a song that nobody in the room knows, but still make them feel the same way, So that's really where the difference between a good and great DJ lies, a good and great set lies, and it's very hard to actually feel that out when you're sitting in front of a computer or sitting at home. And I think that is kind of what's missing in a way for people getting into dance music today. So my advice to anybody who wants to get into like house music or electronic music would be just to like go to find a good club and with a good lineup and go listen to artists playing there. Don't try and then come back home and sit and listen to electronic music if you like and understand it, but don't let Spotify be your entry point to electronic music.
That's a good one. No.
Not say this and then get called out by Spotify.
Not at all.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I think a lot of people don't realize that actually making simple music is way harder than making complex, intricate music to a certain extent. Obviously, I mean, I'm not going to like draw comparisons between the like expressive forms of or different genres of music, but there is a really high difficulty and skill level involved in even making a very, very simple sounding house track as well.
Sure.
A lot of people say that house is like so easy to make, and I'm like, okay, cool, make a track and send it to me. And then
make me feel good. Show me.
It's tough because you're working with limited elements, so you need to really craft those elements and design those elements in a way that evokes certain response and emotion. Oh, I mean, my life is entirely revolves around dance music. I don't think I would have been living a very different life if there wasn't dance music or there wasn't any music. So I think it's been an amazing journey, and I can't be more grateful. That's actually a great story. I actually did not know Anjunadeep at all, and I actually when I made this EP, and even when the EP was done, I actually didn't think about sending it to Anjunadeep at all because I thought they would never respond because they usually never do. I actually sent this to a friend of mine, rather an acquaintance, who runs a German label called Compact. They're also a really big, respected, very cool German label, and I thought this could be an interesting sound for them to put out. And he heard it a few times, and he even passed it around in the label, and he was like, this is a great EP and it's a great sound, but unfortunately it doesn't fit what we're doing at Compact or our vision for the next few years. But he was like, you know what, I'll send this to the guys at Anjunadeep because I think this could be a cool fit for them. And so he sent it to them, and that's how the whole process and journey began.
Wow, that's lovely, man. So it took a little detour, but it ended up where it had to go.
Exactly, yeah. Oh yeah, that's a pretty crazy one. I mean, I grew up like half an hour away from Anjuna Beach, right?
Wow.
So it's really a homecoming, especially one there.
That's amazing. And
yeah.
So you were born in Goa?
I was born in Bangalore, but just because my mom's from there, but essentially raised in Goa throughout. My family moved to Goa in the early 60s. So I'm third generation, sort of born and raised here.
Oh, sweet. Awesome. Yeah. Sometimes the story writes itself, right?
Yeah.
They're coming around, full circle. And hopefully it's a very exciting and satisfying circle that you end up going. That's cool, man.
In my music, I think I was asked this question like a few weeks ago as well, and I said that I think a lot of people like to say that this city or this I don't know work of art or I don't know this place inspired the song. But I think for me, I think maybe it's just as me, but I think the only thing that really inspires me is other great music, and listening to something fresh, something exciting, going to a festival, listening to a bunch of tracks that I don't know, watching some of the biggest DJs or the best DJs in the world at the top of their game. I think that for me is more inspiring than anything else musically. And that's really where the core of my musical inspiration comes from. Apart from that, I think in life, it's not like I really look up to or like, I would say I can really pinpoint.
Not necessarily that you inspired or just maybe you enjoy something, that takes.
My philosophy by living life is mainly I think that's also comes from me being born and raised in Goa, because Goa has this way of life called sossegal, which is derives from the Portuguese word meaning slow and easy.
What's that again?
It's called sossegal.
Sossegal, I see.
Yeah, it's basically like a very slow and content life. Where you take a siesta in the afternoon and not chase material goals. And that's the kind of way I like to live. Largely, if I'm working, I definitely want to work 100% and finish that, but then I don't want my work-life balance to be affected. I try and make enough time in life to pursue hobbies, work out, do whatever I want to do, and balance it with work, and then not like sort of crumble myself under pressure trying to work all the time.
Sweet. And speaking of like hobbies, like what do you like to do apart from music?
The dangerous thing with me and hobbies is they change very often, and they tend to end up being each one being more expensive than the other. But right now, I mean, one of my constant hobbies throughout has been photography. I'm like really into like photography, shooting portraits. It's something I don't get to pursue that often, but that's been one of the constant ones throughout. Apart from that, I recently last year in the lockdown got into cycling, and now I'm very very into cycling.
That's great.
So I ride with like a bunch of friends who own a race team, and like it's pretty seriously competitive. So that's my current hobby. In 6 months it could change. There could be a new
yeah. So once the hobby gets too competitive, then it changes to something less.
I think
serious.
I think it's just more like boredom. Once I get bored, it's and I tend to get bored quite easily. So that's not a good thing. But yeah, let's see how long it lasts. Yeah, I mean, as cliche as it sounds, unfortunately, the best piece of advice really is to be unique. And I was speaking to a bunch of students from school a few weeks ago in Bangalore, and I think what I said is, well, you have to be unique. There's no option right now, because I mean, no matter what you do, the world has gotten so competitive to a point that to be able to cut through the noise, you have to do something different. Ideally, this should be your music, but that's easier said than done. It's not that easy to find a radically different sound or radically different genre. But if it's not your music, at least it's the way your identity, maybe the way you dress, maybe the way you play your sets, maybe it's the instruments you're using on stage. It could be anything. At this point of time, with the power of social media and the ability to reach a lot of people. People like to share something that's unique, and people like to share exciting content, right? So you have to really harness the power of that, as much as it sucks. And like I've gone to a point where I would happily not even have social media if I didn't need to. But I mean, it's there, and like everybody's using it, and that's the only way to really get your music across. So it is a powerful tool, and unfortunately, sometimes you have to like figure out how to play the game. And I think the most authentic way of doing that is to put your craft and your art and make that front and center, right? So if you're a DJ, go to unique locations and shoot sets, as much as you can. Shoot it in a way that looks beautiful and people will want to share it. If you're a producer, try something different. Try using a different instrument that's not been used before. Try mixing sounds. Try merging sounds. Whatever it is that you want to do, take all your preconceived notions and throw them out of the window and try to like restart. That I think, even if you can make a 5% difference to what your sound is, or like I would say, even if you have a certain sound that you're like chasing after, say you want to get signed to a label like Anjunadeep, for example. The one thing with like big labels is that they will not sign people that make stuff that sounds exactly like everything on their catalog, because they already have people making things that sound like what's on their catalog. So you have to bring something new, whether it's a 5 or 10% difference. Also, don't be afraid to look outside the box and experiment. Often the answer is just around the corner, hiding away. But do try something new.
Sure, man.
So the main thing I would say is also perseverance. Like, trying new things till you fail.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you had mentioned earlier, right?
Yeah, and even if you fail, just pick yourself up and do it all over again. Because I mean, there's really like no shortcut to success in this industry. It's a long road, but like, I mean, again, the journey is what it's all about.
Sure.
I think like all of this basically, for me at least, I mean, I could say it came to me easily or naturally, but I think the key really is to look beyond sort of your own. What is the right way I can put this? Okay, I could also rephrase this in a way that when you're starting out, or when you are sort of in the formative years of your career, don't constantly chase money and success. What happens with that is you end up then basically getting into the race to basically become popular and famous, and that can quickly derail you from what your musical identity is. The thing about being authentic is that being authentic is really the true version of yourself, and often that may not be the most commercially successful or the most popular sound that's being played around. Where you can really stand out and shine is how you can take that authenticity and present it in a way that is an intersection between what is commercially being listened to, or what people are listening to, and what you would like to present. I think there's always, in any art form or in any successful piece of music, art, architecture, or literature, there's always a compromise between 100% authenticity and 100% popularity or commercial success. Because at the end of the day, look, it's very simple. No matter what genre you listen to, whether you listen to the most underground techno or you're listening to pop, all music essentially at the end of the day needs to have a hook. It needs to have some element that draws the listener in and holds their attention, right? And the innate ability to write a hook is really what makes or breaks a producer or a songwriter. And your authentic presentation of an artist, I think, would be the ability to bring that hook and put it on something that is a representation of yourself. That's the way I look at it. Is that you have to kind of figure out what it is that works for you and for the audiences. And the moment you can find a decent intersection between the two, you have something that's a viable product.
Sure, man. Makes a lot of sense. And the one question I would ask from my side is there such a thing as trying too hard to be unique where it's counterproductive to that?
That's again, so if you talk about the scale between authenticity and commercial viability, you really need to find the sweet spot to be successful. If you go too close to authenticity, you may not be able to be successful commercially, which is completely okay. I mean, a lot of artists who are extremely authentic and very, very good at what they do, but then again, they are completely content with not chasing bigger shows, or they don't care about streaming numbers, and that's completely okay. I mean, that's absolutely one way of doing it. So you have to really figure out what is your balance in life and what brings you the most happiness. Some of the goals that I would chase 2 years ago, I absolutely do not care about right now, and I'm way more content putting out music that I know will probably never do 10 billion streams, but I don't care about it at all, which is something I would extremely be careful about 2 or 3 years ago, and down to even the writing process when I was picking collaborators. I would be like, the collaborators who have the biggest following, because I want to get bigger reach, but I would now necessarily pick collaborators only based on musical quality and ability. So it's also really at what journey in your career you're at as an artist. What are your goals, and then what is the balance between authenticity and commercial viability that you want to achieve to present yourself in the most. At the end of the day, only you as an artist or a human being or individual are aware of what your music is, right? Everything is just a presentation of the world. So what's important is that whatever you're putting out there, you are comfortable with it at the end, right? Because I mean, people will come, they listen to it, they'll compliment you or they'll criticize you, but you have to wake up the next morning and that music is still on your own.
Yeah.
So you have to deal with it on a daily basis, 24/7, than apart from anybody else in the world.
For sure.
At best, people will say, "Oh, we love this," and they listen to it for a few times, or they say, "We hate this," and they'll move on. So it really comes down to what you want to present.
Sure, man.
I think there's no like, there's really no like, these things as to what is too authentic or what is too commercial. I've seen so many artists who have been very authentic all their careers, very sort of underground, put out something that is, way too mainstream, and then lose a bunch of fans from their following. I've seen very successful commercial artists try to put out something that's too authentic, and then really sort of like that song does nothing. So you have to really like find the balance. I don't think it makes sense to go one step either way. It doesn't work very well.
Right.
No, I mean, like I also said earlier, like this was just an experiment. It was just a very, very random experiment that seemed to work out.
Right.
And I think that's what happens again with most music I've discovered, is that if you have a very like fixed conscious goal sometimes, that, hey, especially when you're making stuff like to central labels, I've noticed this in the past with a lot of people who say, oh, we've made this EP for this label. But because you're constantly boxed into trying to work within that sound, you may have ignored a bunch of other inspirations that you got along the way. And I think when you make music with putting yourself inside a box, that's just like, it doesn't work. So like the most authentic music or the best stuff that comes out is just with no goal in mind, now I'm actually worried, because now there's a sound that's defined to Anyasa. There's a sonic palette that's already set. I was lucky enough that I was able to wrap up the second EP very easily after the first one, so that's done. But now I'm beginning to start the writing process for the third EP, which is going to happen over the next 3 months. And now I'm beginning to like think about it. Now I'm beginning to overthink and worry that, okay, I've already boxed myself into the sound largely, and now it's also the pressure on me to sort of deliver on like better tracks. So what's my next move? Do I do another EP? Do I try and do an album to make it a longer piece of content where I can experiment more? So these are all questions that are popping up now. But I think if you want to do something radically different, that is the most liberating time, because that's when you can throw all your preconceived notions and everything out and basically work from scratch. And I think that is a very liberating feeling.
Sure, man. That's a great point.
Yeah.
About boxing yourself in by writing with too much of a specific purpose.
Yeah.
That's a great point. So, yeah, man. So I guess we're almost through with the hour.
I can send you a link to it. It's got 3 tracks. Again, all 3 female collaborators. So they sound great. I personally think this EP is stronger than the previous one. I think some of the musical ideas that came together, the production process and style also evolved a little bit, and came together in a way more organic and easier manner than the first EP. It could have just been. There's too many factors. Like you can't pinpoint what it comes down to. I'm really excited for this one. I've been really liking the tracks. So yeah, I'm excited to put it out.
That's great, man. I was really glad to hear that you had another one coming in Jan, because when I heard Gaya, I thought, oh, this is really nice. But I can tell there's something more coming. Like this is just the first step,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for sure, there's a lot more music on the way. 100%.
Yeah, because it was already like it sounded good, and it also sounded like it's alluding to, another piece of music that will be on a better level, like you said, for yourself mainly, and for the listeners also.
Yeah.
It's lovely, man. Really good to chat with you, and thanks so much. I'm really looking forward to catch you on Sunday.
See you on Sunday.
5 p.m.
Yeah.
Take care, man. See you.
Bye.
See you. Bye-bye.